Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, stressed out Christians who want to really thrive. I'm Liz Frericks, and this is my husband Evan.
Hi.
And we're so glad you guys are here with us on this wonderful Thursday.
Yes, we are. Thank you for listening to the show. And if this episode is particularly helpful to you or interesting or helps your prayer life at all, we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Then please do share this show with a friend.
Since it's Thursday, our CSC of the day is being connected. And this is primarily about our connection to God, but it's also about our connection to others. Because we need our connection to God to have our power, but we also are designed to be in community. And that's where the working out of the good things God's created us to do comes into play. So we need both. And this week we are talking about doubt. We've been going through James 1, 5 through 8, which I'm just going to read it again. It says, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. But when he asks, he must believe and not doubt, because he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That man should not think he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all he does.
It's interesting there. It sounds like you could ask in doubt and not in faith. Like, I tend to think that engaging with God through prayer is always an act of faith, but evidently there's a little bit of room there for it to still be an act of doubt and to lack faith. It's kind of
Well, I think if you're not listening for an answer, I think that's an opportunity to ask in doubt. I think, too, sometimes I know for me, I will ask something that I already know the answer to.
And
it's
like why is that?
Well, like for instance, okay, with my writing, there are times when I'm like, Lord, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? You know, this is taking all this time. And there are times when I come to him with a heart of like, no, really, I just want to do whatever you want me to do. And then he answers and he says, yes, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And he confirms it. Right. He confirms it through, other people. I've had conversations like that with God, and then the next day or the same day, some random person will come up and be like, oh, how's your writing going? That's so awesome that you're doing that. And encourage me, which is, it'll just be out of the blue,
Right.
But then there are times where I ask God and say, am I really supposed to be writing? This is hard. And his response to that typically has been, what did I say? It just kind of makes me think of our kids, and when they're like, did you really mean that I need to empty out the dishwasher? I'm like, you know that you're supposed to empty out the dishwasher. How many times have I told you this is what you're supposed to be doing? Yeah. So I think it depends on what kind of attitude we have when we go to God. Is it an honest, like, I need help with this, please, grow and change me and give me wisdom? Or is it a like, I just want the answer to change.
That's interesting. Yeah, we're talking about connection today. And one way is a real desire for connection. It's like, well, I'm having some doubt and I'm unsure, but I want the right perspective, God, so please help me. And the other one is,
right.
Why don't you change your mind or change your answer because I don't really like it for some reason. And it's kind of, it limits connection because the other one is totally open and surrendered to connection.
That process of coming to God with our doubts is so important. We've talked a little bit about that this week. But one of the things that I wrote down for today, doubt begets doubt. And as long as we are separating ourselves from God in the middle of our doubt, the more doubt we have. My example was, if you were in the military and you went off for 6 months or something, we would have a hard time maintaining a healthy relationship, especially if we couldn't talk all that often. And I might start doubting, like, do you really love me? Do you really want to be married to me? And the more I didn't ask about that, the more upset I would get, and the more things that I would start to see of like, oh, well, look, there's confirmation. That's probably, he didn't call me this week, when it's completely unrelated to that. So,
right, but that's the thing you're kind of worried about and dwelling on.
Right,
and it's beginning more doubt. Yeah, that's a good line. When we let that get in the way of us even coming to God and asking the question or asking for more wisdom or asking to remove doubt. We just keep the doubt and let it simmer. It's just a bad situation all around.
Yeah, like when we talked about in Mark 9 where Jesus cast the demon out of that boy and the father says, I do believe, help my unbelief. He could have just been like, well, yeah, I do have some unbelief.
Well, and at first, like, he asked that question, if you're willing. So he was
There's
expressing some doubt
definitely
there.
some doubt, yeah.
But he was taking it to the right guy. He was
Yeah.
taking it to Jesus. And then he said, well, help me fix this, because...
Right. Yeah, and I think, when we have a correct view of God and the way he handles our doubts, it's a lot easier to bring our doubts to him. I was thinking about how Jesus handles Thomas in John 20:24 through 31. It says, Now Thomas, called Didymus, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, We have seen the Lord. But he said to them, Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe it. A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, Peace be with you. Then he said to Thomas, Put your finger here. See my hands. Reach out your hand and put it in my side. Stop doubting and believe. Thomas said to him, My Lord and my God. Then Jesus told him, Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed.
Yeah, that is gentle. I mean, it's firm and it's gentle.
Right. Yeah, he's not like, you idiot, why didn't you believe them in the first place? I mean, your other fellow disciples told you the truth and you just refused to believe him. Like, he could have berated Thomas, or he could have said, suck it up, here I am, you need to believe. But instead he says, okay, this is what you needed for proof? Well, put your hands in my side, touch the nail marks. It's amazing to me that he's so gentle with him.
That's another example of what we talked about on Tuesday, where God gives wisdom without finding fault.
Yeah.
I mean, God knows fault, but he doesn't dwell on it. If we come into him in faith, he's eager to forgive and then start working on the stuff that he really cares about.
Right.
Which is our maturity and going through kind of the roadmap we looked at yesterday.
And I love, too, that faith means there's options. Like, by definition, that means that it's not... Like, for instance, I do not have to have faith that my feet are on this floor. They are. I know it. I mean, I guess you could get into existential, like, how do we know what we know? And
Or are you saying, though, but you don't have faith for it to be true? Like your feet are on the floor?
I'm saying that, faith requires for there to be some doubt and some uncertainty. And then choosing to believe what God says anyway, even when we don't necessarily see it.
Yeah, well, right. And God's able to handle our doubt, and he's encouraging us here to come and bring those to him, and he will sort those out with us.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Thomas could have said, well, I know that dead people don't come back to life, so I don't care that I touched your hand and your side. It's still not you, Jesus. It's still a trick. So that there was an opportunity for him to not have faith. But at the same time, faith is not blind. Like, Jesus didn't expect Thomas to just believe without necessarily, he knew what Thomas needed, and he gave him that for him to be able to have faith. So, I never espouse blind faith as a healthy reality.
Well,
I don't think that that's biblical.
No, not at all. I mean, and I'm going to come back to what we talked about yesterday, that testing your faith leads to perseverance, which leads to maturity, which leads to lacking in nothing. How there's a process there, and part of that process is kind of, okay, you're told a piece of truth, like maybe you read it in the Bible or you hear it at church or something, and you're like, is that for real? And then you investigate it. There's a little bit of doubt there, but it leads to greater faith because you're like, God, help me understand this. This doesn't, either it seems too good to be true, or it doesn't seem right, or I don't accept it for whatever reason. But help me, help my unbelief.
Yeah, and as we prove those things, as we step out on the ice and have it hold us, as we, trust that God is going to take care of us and then watch him do it, our faith grows. Mm-hmm. But it's not because we're like, oh, yep, this is definitely true, and I just don't have any doubts, and we can't start as adults in the faith. We have to start as babies and grow.
That's natural.
Exactly. As always, pick whether today is going to be awesome or not, whether you're going to strengthen those neural pathways to look for good things or to look for not so good things, because you totally could. We love you guys, and we are praying for you. Thanks to everybody that's been listening to the show and sharing the show. We really appreciate it. If you have found this episode helpful, please do share it. And come back tomorrow, and we are going to talk about what it means to be double-minded and how we live that out.
And how to not be so double.
Live it out. Yes.
Advice to be more double-minded tomorrow.
Yeah. All right, you guys, have an awesome Thursday.